Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Bougie Astrology, and we're going to take a deep dive look into the out of sign eclipse that's going to happen in Taurus on October 28th. An out of sign eclipse, which is ending a cycle of 4 eclipses that have been in the sign of Taurus, which is not common. Usually, when the nodes go through a sign, it takes anywhere between 18 to 20 months, and we will have literally 3 sets of eclipses that go through those signs, and then shit moves on. However, this particular eclipse cycle that we've been in, we started before the nodes even went into the signs of Taurus and Scorpio. We actually started it in November of 2021. And if you've been listening to me for a while, I've been saying we are in an energy where we are closing out a very large cycle. And the whole last 2 years has been about clearing and purging things in a karmic way. And what's going to take place in this eclipse and in the weeks following this eclipse is going to be the rounding out of a cycle, a leveling up of a cycle that is going to take us into the new territory, into new horizons, into what the next year is going to unfold. Now, full moons generally have to do with completions. However, many of us started this 2-year cycle in a completion. It was in a very unexpected way. There are reasons for that. There are reasons why I say this particular full moon will take weeks to truly understand. And when I say weeks, I really don't just mean it in the sense of like the next 2. I could really mean months. I mean all the way into December, and for a few of us going into January. It will take the next few weeks to months to fully understand what is unfolding, what is being activated during this eclipse. Now, I have specific reasons why I say activated. Very specific reasons as to why. This eclipse is taking place at 5 degrees. 5 degrees of Taurus. Let's talk about 5 degrees of Taurus. Let's talk about it. In April and May, we had a Mercury retrograde during the last eclipse season. That Mercury retrograde took place in between 2 very specific sets of numbers. Those numbers, 15 degrees of Taurus and 5 degrees of Taurus. Oh, there's that 5 again. On September 4th of this year, Jupiter turned retrograde at 15 degrees of Taurus and will be going all the way back to 5 degrees. Through the last 2 weeks of December and the first 2 weeks of January, Jupiter will be at 5 degrees of Taurus. The Mercury retrograde from May was meant to show us one of 2 things. It was either an opportunity, a temporary opportunity of something that we needed to go and handle, a lesson that needed to be learned in many ways. Some of us are coming back to this timeline right now, and it's almost like we're starting back over again from an energy that we had earlier this year, specifically between March and May. In other ways, things that we started in March and May are rounding back out, and we're in a bit of a haze. We're in a bit of a resting period. We're kind of stationary. We're kind of lagging. Some of us feel like nothing's ever going to happen. We're feeling stagnant. That ain't going to last much longer. It's not going to last much longer. And what's going to happen energetically in this eclipse is going to be the next level of activation. The next little click. And more people will start to have conversations about whatever you've been working on. Because more things are starting to click. There's a level up that can happen in this full moon, just as much as there are completions. Somebody that is going into their job finally and saying, screw you, I'm done. Because many of us have been in an energy where we've been ready to tell our bosses, screw you, I'm done. And the thing is like, we've been in this energy for a while, And everybody seems to be doing it all at different times, which is why you keep hearing me say the same example over and over again. What's funny, though, is how often at the end of each week, I get messages from people going, yep, so I did it this week. I know you've been saying it's going to happen, but dang, it finally happened, and now I feel better. Great. You're meant to feel better. But the earlier that we made those decisions, the earlier in the process that we were energetically with letting something go, we were the ones that hit the little bit of a stagnancy. We hit the wall. And it's almost like we've been waiting for a while. This eclipse is going to alter where we're at in the waiting game. Now, there have been other things that have happened at 5 degrees of Taurus. One of those was specific to June, actually, and that was the first Venus-Jupiter square. But there was another thing that happened in June, and if you've been listening to me for a while, I've been saying this for months. During the Sagittarius full moon, I had a very specific set of downloads. That set of downloads, for those that don't know, I say downloads, but think visions, but I don't like using the word visions because it has a different cognation to it. So I like to say downloads. I had an epiphany. I had a download. I had something come through. And the terminology that I heard was Mars conjunctions. Well, that's very, very specific. And I think back to that full moon. That Sagittarius full moon was immediately followed by two things. One, Mars wasn't even involved. Mercury and its conjunction to Uranus. Jupiter entering shadow. Now, all through the month of May, Jupiter was in a conjunction to the North Node, and many of us found ourselves in this opportunity or in this situation where we were being led towards something really, really hopeful, but in another way, some of our hope, some of our desires, some of the things that we thought were about to unfold were slowly getting eaten up. Eaten away. Some of us, we burned through our savings. Some of us, we were trying to get things lined out for other people more and more and more and more, and it burned through our own energy. And now we're hitting another type of brick wall because we gave up everything that we could earlier, and things are still not right. They're still not well. Those are the things that are meant to end. There was something very specific about that Sagittarius full moon that came through, and that terminology was Mars conjunctions. Now, when I say this, I do not mean the moon and Mars because we get a moon-Mars conjunction every single month. I don't mean the Mars-South Node conjunction that we had last month because that's not a planetary conjunction. That was a luminary conjunction. The South Node is a magnetic point. It's not tangible. The planets are tangible. During this 5-degree eclipse, we will also have our very first Mars conjunction, our first one in 14 months. The first one is going to be with Mercury, and the thing about its conjunction to Mercury is that we will have three sets of conjunctions. The other two will take place in December and January, when Jupiter is at the 5-degree mark. A lot of people are going to be putting a plan into action following this eclipse, and it will take the next few months for everything to unfold, erupt, do whatever terminology you need. It will take the 3-month period for everything to come to light, for everything to fall into place, for everything to do well. It'll take a few months. Now, there's another Mars conjunction that will happen within the next month, and that's going to be the Mars-Sun conjunction. And what I felt like whenever I was meditating on this transit last night is that whatever starts to unfold, whatever plan, whatever communication between Mars and Mercury during this eclipse, it's going to take weeks for it to unfold. And many people will not understand what's fully being revealed, what's fully coming to light, what's fully coming to the surface until the Sun-Mars conjunction, and that's not happening until November. It will take weeks for us to start to even get a full inkling of understanding as to what we are doing and where we are going and what is being activated and what is unfolding. Weeks on so many levels. So my list for the 5-degree mark of Taurus: 1, Mercury turned direct, the Mercury retrograde from earlier this year. Mercury was at 5 degrees specific to April 7th. That's whenever it entered shadow. And then May 13th through May 17th, whenever Mercury turned direct. Jupiter was at 5 degrees June 8th through June 13th, but this was also in a conjunction to the North Node. This was also whenever Saturn was starting to slow down to turn retrograde. So we had an inkling and a hope for something, but it was not time for it to be there yet. It was not time for it to unfold yet. It was not the right time. So while we were waiting on everything to fall into place, we were burning through our savings, burning through the money, burning through a bunch of things. Our hope was getting eaten away by something or someone. There was a false hope in a lot of ways in that energy. From December 15th of this year to January 15th of next year, so where we're going next, Jupiter will be back at the 5-degree mark. We're midway between all of that during this eclipse. So something is activating here. Something very, very profound is activating at this time. We will not all see the full results of what is going to happen next at the same time. We're not all going to see it all this weekend. We're not going to all just see it next week. We're not going to see it all in the next month. For many of us, it's going to take time for how this is going to unfold for us. And if you're going into this eclipse thinking everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows whenever it all happens, I'm here to put a little dash in that. It's not quite going to be the same. Now, there's one other element that I want to bring in, and that was the Venus-Jupiter square. The Venus-Jupiter square happened between June 10th and June 11th, and that too happened at the 5-degree of Taurus mark. There are things from the Venus retrograde that have led to what's going to happen in this eclipse. There are things from that Venus retrograde that will not truly unfold in a way that it's going to be beneficial for Jupiter until we get to December, specifically whenever Venus goes into Sag, and we got months before that's going to happen. This out of sign eclipse is meant to complete one cycle while bridging us into the other. And the reason I'm saying so much of that as a bridge is because Venus, the ruler of this eclipse, is in Virgo. It's in a mutable, bridging sign. This is meant to be an eclipse of transition. The first Venus-ruled eclipse was in a cardinal sign, instigative, starting something up. A start. For some people, it was a peaceful start. For some people, it was a start to break away. And once we get to this element, the actual break will happen. Some of you that have been so stubborn about not wanting change for so long, change is about to happen. And it will follow somewhere in the days after this eclipse. Now, this eclipse is happening on the weekend. Not everybody's quitting their job on the weekend. Not everybody's going to have a breakup on the weekend. Not everybody's going to get engaged this weekend. Not everybody's going to get married this weekend. Not everybody's going to be doing something this weekend. So the human effect is not everything is going to take place during the eclipse, and that's okay. If you know that going into this energy, that makes this a lot easier to deal with. A plan of action, an intent, a desire is meant to start to unfold. A level up in a lot of ways. Assurances in a lot of ways. I have some keywords whenever it comes to Mercury and Mars. I also have keywords with their opposition to Jupiter, and I want to kind of play all these out and explain a lot of this to you guys. Mercury's conjunction to Mars, we cussing them out. Just to start with that. Cussing somebody else, putting somebody else in their place, harsh words, harsh realities, a snap, humbling someone, especially if somebody has been on cloud nine in the negative sense, like they're in Delulu land. Harsh reality, bringing something back into focus. There can be quick thinking and wittiness, humor involved. Silver tongue, harsh tongue, heated debates, heated conversations. This is a hell of a weekend for a presidential debate, but I don't necessarily know that we're going to have a presidential debate, but it would be a hell of a weekend for one. Anxious outbursts, threats, intimidation, bold, outspoken behavior. If you are somebody that is getting very, very fed up with another person and the way they have been acting, the idea that you're going to keep that to yourself this weekend, probably not going to happen. The quietest little mouse will suddenly have the biggest voice in the room with Mercury's conjunction to Mars, because they have been dealing with somebody else's shit for so long, and they're going to tell everybody exactly how they feel. Why? Because the Mercury-Mars conjunction is going to be happening in a fixed emotional sign. How we've been feeling about something for a while come to the surface. Impulsive decisions. That can be a big one. An impulsive agreement. Everything sounds really, really good, so you make that handshake agreement, and you don't necessarily have all your ducks in a row. You haven't lined everything out. You haven't read all of the forms. You just kind of did the handshake agreement based off of what was being said at the table. That might not be the best way to go, because some of the agreements that we can make this weekend can come back to bite us later on, just as much as they can come back and level up. And that bite us timeline would still be in the same timeline that I just said. It would still be into that December and January timeline. Yeah. Announcements. Again, plans of action. Voicing a determination. Voicing a goal. Passionate proclamations. And that is even spoken because of the opposition to Jupiter. Passionate, hopeful proclamations. Passionate debates. Teaching somebody in the moment by putting them in their place. There's meant to be something that is helpful, healing, and fortunate with Jupiter's energy. And the reason that is because of how everything went the last time we had an eclipse, an out of sign eclipse in Taurus. There's been 4 eclipses now in Taurus. This is the 4th one. 2 were in sign, 2 were out of sign. The first one and the last one are both the out of sign eclipses. The first one, again, November 19th of 2021. The second one, again, is whenever we're doing this. So it's October 28th of 2023. But the point in the sky that is being activated during this eclipse has been activated so many times before and will continue to get activated later on. We're not done yet. I would love to say that everything in this eclipse is going to be like, yeah, we're finally done with crazy and new stuff is going to happen. No. I don't feel like we fully bridge into the new territory until right around Thanksgiving. like the last part of November, that's when I feel like we bridge into new territory. But parts of the new territory that we're going into, we didn't think everything through when we get into it. Partially because we're making impulsive decisions. Some of us, not all of us. Be aware of that. Some of the decisions, some of the ideas, some of the things that are spoken about this week, they're going to lead to more things later on. They're carrying the weight of things that have already occurred. So more layers will come through in the unfolding later on. This weekend, the weekend of the eclipse, can be one additional layer to things that are already in the pot, that have already been getting cooked, that have already been boiling over. There are layers. Okay. One other thing I want to add, I haven't had to do this one for a while, but I can feel the intensity of this eclipse. So I want to add in one extra layer, and I want to do this in the beginning and not based off of sign, because here's the deal. Most of us that actually pay attention to astrology, we're not necessarily going through the health issues, and we're not necessarily putting into perspective other people's signs, because we usually just watch based off of our own or whoever's in our immediate surroundings. So I want to add an extra layer to this. This is a full moon that is in a trine/sextile to Saturn. The sun has been in a trine to Saturn all week. The moon will be in a sextile. Saturn is in Jupiter's sign. This full moon is in a conjunction to Jupiter. Jupiter is in an opposition to Mercury and Mars, and Mercury is hosting Venus, the ruler of this eclipse. I know, there's a lot of layers to that, but hear me out. I specifically want to talk about the Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus aspect. Anything in your body that has duals is going to be immediately ruled by Mercury. First and foremost, Mercury. However, some elements are dual. There's duality. There's rulership duality. I cannot say that right all of a sudden. For example, you have two eyes. This is a Venus thing as well as a Mercury thing. Dual, the two, that's going to be the Mercury aspect. The eyes are needed to see the things that give us pleasure. To see our food, to see art, to see music whenever it's being played. Ears, the way we take in this pleasure. Our mouth. To run your mouth, that's a Mercury thing. To take in your food is a Venus thing. A lot of this area starts to get very dual ruled. Your throat and things in this area. Your voice box, and again, talking shit, that's Mercury. Your throat and the thyroid and everything going down, that's Venus. Your lungs, dual ruled, both Venus and Mercury. You have two lungs, but your lungs are meant to help you project those things that are for pleasure. When you sing, you need your lungs because you need your air. You need your mouth. Other things that are going to be ruled by Venus and Mercury that are going to play into this. Your kidneys are ruled by Venus. Certain parts of your intestines are ruled by both Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter. So there's layers to this. If you have somebody in your life that has been having issues either with their lungs, with their intestines, with their liver would be Jupiter, by the way, in their bodily health, this is not a good weekend for them. It's really not. People can suddenly have an issue where they're short of breath. People can suddenly have an issue to where something is going wrong in the body. There's a lot of pressure to the energy of eclipses. And I'm bringing all of that up because I feel this more with this full moon eclipse than what I felt with the new moon eclipse. There will be things whenever you comes to your elders that are having health issues. that this pressure from this eclipse can hit their body really, really hard. So understand that if you have people in your life that are having issues with health, this weekend can be very intense for them. And the issues for and around their health could be your own health. These little issues that can spike can be a part of the Mercury Mars disruptive energy. So it might not all be arguments. Some of it's going to be tied to health, especially if Mercury rules your 6th house of health, or if Mercury is your activation planet this year, or if Mercury is your chart ruler. There can be things tied to health. Be very clear about that. There's a lot of pressure in this eclipse. There's a lot of build up to this eclipse that I didn't quite feel the same way whenever it came to that new moon eclipse that we had in Libra. So I want to be like extra clear about this. I feel the health things again need to be a big warning. So that also means if you have people in your life that they work in the hospitals, especially the emergency room, not a fun weekend for them, guys. Be nice to them. Take them dinner. Take them dinner. They're going to need it. If you have people that work in the medical field, and they even work they don't have to work in the emergency room. The IMSA people, police officers are going to have an intense weekend, but then also the people that work on the hospital floors and the nursing homes, this is going to be an intense weekend for them. Send them this part of the video. That might help them to understand that. If they suddenly have a bunch of people on their floor or in their wing or whatever that are having a very common set of issues, that's because the energy is not in those people's favor. And if you know that going into it, it makes it very easy to identify what's going on. And then you're less likely to react emotionally. You're more likely to react logically. Now, a couple more quick mundane ways with the Mars-Mercury aspect opposite Jupiter that I want to get into. It's not going to all be about the voicing. It's not going to all be about the tensions and the arguments. What it can also be is going to be based off of money. Mercury and Jupiter both have aspects to money. Venus is also an aspect of money. Here's the thing. Jupiter, wealth and prosperity. Mercury, more merchant and the things that we buy and things that we purchase. Venus itself rules money. Venus rules this eclipse season. You can suddenly have an issue paying for something. You can suddenly have an issue running your card. We can suddenly have an issue, and this is not just individuals now, this can be very big picture stuff, suddenly have issues tied to money and wealth and the way that we spend money and the way that we make money. There's a money aspect that I feel disruptions are going to come through. Stock, crypto, bonds. Haven't actually been watching the financial news this week because my mom's been sick, so I need to catch up on that anyways. But the financials, especially if you had financial things that came up last October, November, whenever Mars was in Mercury's sign, was in Gemini. Now here's the deal. Mars being in Scorpio, I've said this before, this is a blank slate for Mars. Mars is in its own home sign, but it's seeing the aftermath of what everyone else has done in its house while it was away. The nodes spent 18 months going between Scorpio and Taurus. Mars, the ruler of Scorpio, the traditional ruler of Scorpio, spent 8 months of that 18 months in Gemini. If you add the timeline of Mars going into Virgo, arguably you can say he spent 10 months in Mercury-ruled signs, arguably. But by the time Mars went into Virgo, the nodes had already changed signs, so I'm kind of iffy on that. Just to be clear, the way it started is more of where I'm going with that one, because whenever Mars went into Virgo, it was right before the nodes changed signs. It was right after Mars went into Virgo. It was right after the Mars-Saturn opposition that the nodes changed signs. But I'm still willing to kind of count it. That's still at least 9 months of Mars being in mercurial signs while the South Node was going through Scorpio. There are layers, so many layers to unpack when it comes to the Mars Mercury conjunctions. This will be the first one. The next two that will take place will be at the end of December and the end of January, and those will include Jupiter being back at the 5 degree of Taurus sign. The impulsive, the actions, the disruptions of this week will have layers, unforeseen layers that come back through. I'm not going to say unforeseen, obviously, because I'm warning you about unimaginable. Like what seems like a great situation right now, once everything unfolds later on, like how the hell did we get here? That's where we're going to be. Just to be super clear. Okay, so I want to do one thing before we get into the deeper part of going by ascendant. And I actually want to show everybody a comparison because there's one extra element with Mars I want to let everybody know about from the last eclipse that happened in Taurus to this one. So out OOSE FME, so out of sign eclipse, out of sign full moon eclipse in Taurus of 2021. So November 19th of 2021, this perfected at 2:58 a.m. Central Standard Time, because I am again in Oklahoma. The sun, 27 degrees, was opposite the moon at 27. The one element that I think is really interesting from there to now is Mars and the opposition point. Mars had just went into an opposition with Uranus when that out of sign eclipse happened. And this included a trine sextile to Venus in Saturn's sign. Venus was entering shadow during this out of sign eclipse. Venus had an entire retrograde in Capricorn following this out of sign eclipse. Let's recap the present now. We're just following a Venus retrograde, so we've mirrored and we're flipped. Mars was then the opposition to Uranus at nearly the same places where the Jupiter-Mars opposition is happening. The difference now is Uranus. Uranus is a sudden energy, and at that time, Uranus was heavily amplified because we were going through the Saturn-Uranus squares. We don't have that issue anymore. Saturn is no longer in Aquarius. Saturn is in Pisces. Saturn is in Jupiter's sign. Saturn is also in a sign of transition. It's time to transition something. It is time to take something to the next level. It is time to start something over. It is time to level something up. Saturn is in Jupiter's sign. And now Jupiter is the one making the opposition to Mars. Many people during that out of sign eclipse energy that happened back in November of 2021, they had a sudden break, a sudden disruption, a sudden unplanned, almost blindsiding energy that shook them to their core. The fixed signs are not shaken anymore. They're well freaking aware that shit has been going on. Many of us are done with the shit. This eclipse is kind of that final layer, that final round of I'm being done. I'm over this. We're doing something else, moving forward, moving along, next chapter, no more bullshit, done. Be aware of two previous main timelines. One, this time span in 2022, because that's whenever the Mars retrograde hit. And it brought a lot of information to the surface. It disrupted a lot of information. But also, what ended for you so abruptly? What shook you? What proclamations, what stance, what drive, what thing happened at the end of 2021 that many people were not ready for? Over the course of the following weeks following this eclipse, over the course of the upcoming weeks following this eclipse, will be putting us back into similar themes, but on a whole new level, on a whole higher level. We're taking things to the next level. We're leveling a lot of things up. And to level a lot of things up, we have a lot of things that need to be said. We have a lot of things that need to be expressed. We have a lot of conversations that are about to be had. Okay, I'm gonna bump this over here. I don't know why that wanted to move out. Anyways, okay. For those that have never listened to a full moon or new moon episode with me, just so everybody's aware, I read everything from a whole house system. So for me, I don't care if your ascendant is at 0 degrees, like Saturn is right here in Pisces, or 25 degrees, like Neptune is at in Pisces right now. The way I read it is that entire sign is your first house. And every numerical house that will follow is now associated with the next house. So, Aries and Aries risings. This is a full moon in your second house of money. Where is your chart ruler? In your 8th house of other people's money. I can see this going a couple different ways. Some people are going to have to pay somebody off. Some people are in the process of paying things off. We're having to right a wrong based off of events that have already occurred over the course of the summer. And that, again, is making us pay some money out. If you had people that were working for you that didn't do things the right way, now you're having to make adjustments and you're having to make changes and you're having to help get something settled. There's a big financial element to what's going on for Aries risings. Selling off an asset, but more than likely, if it's selling off of an asset, it's something that's sentimental. So it's like selling off the classic car. It's selling off dad's classic car because you can't hold on to it anymore. We're selling off our Jeep. We're selling our motorcycle. Vice versa. We could be taking out a loan to buy ourselves something. And if we're doing it that way, again, it's that sentimental thing because of the Jupiter element involved. We could be buying something from a friend. We can be buying something for a friend. We could be paying off a debt for another person. Many of you are going to be looking at heavy negotiations. There will be conversations based off of where certain things are going monetarily. Some people are paying for information. That's going to be really specific. Paying for an investigator, paying for somebody to expose a secret, paying somebody to not expose a secret. Some people will have a secret element based off of a financial element. So you find out your spouse has been doing something shady based off of the credit card statements, based off of the bank statements. It's like, who's been running this card for 1-800 da 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 da? I don't know. And you start looking for your 16-year-old. Because it wasn't your husband, it was the kid. But there is something in regards to secrets and money that can be very, very big right now. There can also be threats of exposing affairs. And again, there can be a payout in that regard. I know that seems really specific. You got caught doing something shady and it was your kid that caught you. It was like, what do you do to keep your mouth shut? Like, what is it going to take? Do I support this mindset? No. But does that mean that people are not going to do it? No, of course they're going to do it. People do shady shit all the time. Some of us, it's the shady shit that's getting us into trouble right now. That's costing us money right now. For some people, the debts have become so overwhelming that you have no other choice but to sell some things off. And you're making an active choice and decision to do that. Understand that if we're in that mindset, again, you're making space for things that are going to come later. We've all been at a point of making space, but now we're coming to a limit of where we're at in the making of space. This is a second house eclipse. Think back to those things that were going on in October, November of 2021, because that can give you a big outlet or an idea as to what's going to be taking shape in this one. If you had heavy, unexpected losses during that out of sign eclipse in November of 2021, then Jupiter's energy can be beneficial and hopeful. If you had heavy, unexpected gains during that time, then Jupiter can be coming in here saying, guess what? Karma says that wasn't all your money. That wasn't all meant to be for you. You didn't do those things. You didn't do the right things with that money. So now you need to do something else. And the reason I say it that way in specific is because Saturn, the ruler of karma, is in Jupiter's sign. So there is a very karmic element to what's going on. Okay. For Taurus and Taurus risings, baby, this is an eclipse in your first house. This is you. This is your mind. This is your body. This is your identity. This is the things that are making you happy. Many of you are realizing after so much stuff has happened over the course of the summer that the people that you are surrounding yourself, they're not necessarily making you happy. You've been having issues with a client, with a coworker. You've been having issues with a friend or somebody in specific. And it is just draining you on so many levels. Some of you have recently had a major disruption that you need to heal from. Whether that is a physical disruption, something that happened in your health, whether that's been an actual disruption in your home life and in your family life, you've had hellacious disruptions based off the fact that your chart ruler ruled the shit show of the summer. Poor Venus and Venus ruled people. I know. Venus brought a lot of things to light. Venus showed the negative impacts of many people's egos, and Venus brought a lot to the forefront. Specifically for you guys, the forefront of your mind. And there is an awareness in this eclipse, an energetic awareness, if not so much also an external awareness of something that you need to continue to work through, that you need to heal. There's a huge healing element in the energy moving forward. You're finding new purpose right now. Are you finding it all at once? No. For many Taurus risings, I don't feel like you're going to have a better understanding of what this next chapter and this next purpose is going to be until January. I'm not even saying December with you guys. I'm saying January. We end this year, we end the Jupiter retrograde on December 30th, but then the Mercury retrograde, which will end in Sagittarius, ends January 1st of 2024. I don't feel like you guys are going to fully understand when you're going next in your purpose, in how you are of service to people, in what you need to be doing next, in the spiritual growth, in the healing growth, in the way that you connect with people. I don't think you're going to have a full understanding of what's unfolding in front of you until January. But there's a decision to let something go, to no longer do something a certain way, to no longer be connected to certain people, to no longer be in this friend group, to no longer have this commitment, to no longer have this connection, because you can't trust certain people. And there will be elements right around the eclipse, if not directly during this weekend, there will be elements that show you exactly that, Taurus risings. For you to continue to be successful in the way that you want moving forward, there will be an element of letting go of certain people. And the thing is, they're going to make that decision really easy for you. Because that Mercury-Mars conjunction, baby, that's happening in your 7th house. That's other people's shit. It's other people's disruptions. That's other people doing something, and that doing something is going to impact the way that you need to heal. There will be an event, a disruptive event, whether it's chaotic disruption or pivotal disruption. There will be an event that you will need to heal from. There will be a breakup, there will be an argument, there will be tensions, there will be a frustration, there will be something that you will need to heal from. And I'm saying specifically the heal from is because both Uranus and Jupiter are retrograde in your first house. And these two will not turn direct until Jupiter, the end of December, and Uranus the end of January. Right now, you're going through the decision of making differences and changes for yourself, by yourself, and fuck everyone else. You do you, babe. All right. For Geminis and Gemini risings, we have a third house eclipse. Why did I write third house? I don't know why I wrote third. It's 12th house eclipse. I wrote third, and I'm sitting there like, why did I do that? Anyways, this is an eclipse in your 12th house, the house of the unknown, the unseen endings, things going on behind your back, spirituality, finding peace, finding hope, watching something come to a close, watching something come to an end. Where is your chart ruler? In the beginning, whenever I mentioned, I did that little segue that is specific to just people's health. I really want Gemini risings to hear me. Mercury is your chart ruler, and Mercury is in your 6th house of health, making a conjunction to Mars. In your 6th house of health, there can be something disruptive either in your health or in somebody else's health this weekend. Now, adding the element that Mars rules your 6th house of health in this conjunction with the chart ruler, some of this energy can be about your sexual organ health. That part I did not say in the beginning because I don't feel like this applies to everybody. But if you've been having anything going on in your bodily, it can come up to the surface this time. But if it comes to the surface this time, it's very likely that whatever comes with it will have additional layers, will have additional answers. There will be more of an understanding. Having the South Node in your 5th house of love, luck, romance, joy, happiness, and children. Venus, the ruler of matrons and motherhood, in the 4th, which is also ruled by Mercury. I don't like this energy for a lot of Gemini risings tied to sexual organ health and anything in this area. And I'm not saying like you go out and you get an STD, but I am saying things along the lines of like, this is a really good energy that if something doesn't feel right in your body, go get a freaking checkup. If something doesn't feel right when you're going to the bathroom, something doesn't feel right in your pelvis, something doesn't feel right in your prostate, whatever your individual units are, don't take it lightly. You can be blindsided by something. You cannot feel well during this eclipse weekend. You can learn about somebody else that is not feeling well during this eclipse weekend. And if that's going to be the other people, again, I'm saying watch the elders. Your parents, your in-laws, aunts, uncles. There can be a disruption specifically tied to health and routine. For other people, you started a job earlier this year. And we're getting very, very close to thinking that this wasn't the right job, that this wasn't the right path. And for some people, you're going to be coming to terms with letting go of an idea, letting go of a situation, and going on another route, going on a different path, looking for a different purpose. You will not find all of the answers towards your purpose in this eclipse. But the decision to let something go, to end something or be done with something, that is in this eclipse. Let something go. Okay. For Cancers and Cancer risings, this is a full moon in your 11th house of friends, network, colleagues, people that you like to do business with, people that you like to spend time with, people that you choose to associate with. Opposite Mars and Mercury in your 5th house of love, luck, romance, joy, and happiness. I want to be really, really clear for Cancer risings. Some of you are turning something around in your relationship and you're making proclamations to your friends that you are committed to be with a certain person. And this can mean that some people are going to fall away from your life. That's okay. You are overcoming traumas and fears tied to relationships right now. One of the lessons that you are going through over the remaining parts of this year is who is meant for you and who isn't meant for you. Some proclamations that are going to be made this week are going to be very, very bold, and hopeful and boastful. Others, however, you're not necessarily in a relationship. You're not making some bold proclamation. Instead, you're flirting. It's a little flirtatious energy. You're having a little bit of fun. You're out with your friends and you're looking at your buddy, and I don't know, maybe we can be friends with benefits. That's not a terrible idea. That's not a terrible idea, right? We've been friends a long time. We can trust each other. It's not a horrible idea. For those of you that decide that you want to do the friends with benefits thing, and I picked up on this really strong with Cancer risings, y'all need to be super clear about what you're doing, because very seldom does a friends with benefits relationship end with everybody being really happy. You are in a final lesson of understanding who should be your friend and who should be your lover. Mars in your 5th has probably made you really, really horny for the last few weeks. And it's been like an increasing energy. Here's the deal. If you are choosing a partner with your libido versus your logical brain versus your heart, that's not a good thing. And again, consequences can come back to bite you later. Don't think with your libido. In other words, don't think with the devil dick, and don't think with your devil vagina, whichever one that you have. Don't think with them, which is going to be really, really hard. Don't think with them, because you're going to regret it later. There will be a regret that comes through later. Or that means this relationship, this friendship, it's not going to remain a friendship. It could potentially turn into something else. That could be helpful. That could be nice. That could be pleasant. But not everybody's going to get that. Be very, very cautious and very, very aware of who you might be getting into bed with in that regard. If you're making the proclamations of love, that this is my person and I'm going to be with them for the rest of my life, just understand that that means that your commitment to said person can be costing you certain friendships, and that's okay. That's okay. Some people, for Cancer risings, some of the people that have been your friends, some of the people that you have thought have been your tribe, they're meant to take a step back right now. Whether they fall away completely or whether it's just a temporary falling out and everything turns around later on, whichever way it goes, understand that Uranus and Jupiter retrograde in your 11th house means you're going to have some people fall away from you. That's okay. As long as everybody can be happy in the long run, it'll be okay. Okay, for Leos and Leo risings, this is an eclipse, a final unfolding of energy, either tied to your career or tied to your public image. Some of it is going to be based off of a lot of long-term past decisions and past complications and past situations that are now slowly but surely either coming to light or have come to light. Things have been coming to the surface. And a final blow of exposure can happen in this eclipse. And this final blow of exposure can be very, very disruptive to your household, to your home life, to your family, to the family unit. There can be secrets that come to light, disruptive energies, that it is time for these to be spoken about. It is time for everybody to know what happened. It is time for everybody to be aware. It is time for everyone to heal. The way that we see the future is going to be very, very different. That Venus retrograde in your first house did a lot of exposure. Some of you thought things that had been squashed and done for years was never going to come back up, and woo, did it come back up. Some of you know it's about to come back up. Things have been coming to light. More things will come to light, and more people will have judgment to your character. Good, bad, and ugly, they will have judgments to your character. But understand the things that come to light through this eclipse season into the months ahead, they will create a wedge, a long-term wedge between how you see other people and how they see you. And you will, if you know this going into it, some people, this is going to like completely hurt their ego by me saying this. If you know whatever gets exposed, whatever's coming to light, whatever parts of your future are starting to unfold right now, if you know that not everybody is going to be on the same page as your decision-making process, if you know that you're going to be judged for this decision for the rest of your life, just come to terms with it now. Just come to terms with it now. It's going to make it a lot easier. Be like, oh, you have a problem with this? Well, that sucks for you. This is my life. Did you pay my bills? Shut the fuck up. There are things that are going to be coming to light. Some of these are going to be your own things coming to light, your own things being realized. For some of you, it is going to be your partner. For some of you, it is going to be your parents. For some of you, it is going to be your in-laws. It's going to be tied to family. But there are things that are being seen that are tied to where we are going for the future. And these are things that have been going on for quite some time that are finally being brought to light. And for many of you, there can be a financial element involved, mainly because Venus is now in your second house of money. Whether it's a good, bad, or ugly, financial elements are going to be involved. Okay. For Virgos and Virgo risings, do you hear the ringing in your ears yet? The North Node in your 8th house. Have you guys been hearing the ringing yet? It's been going on for a while, and it takes some time. And basically, it takes time for all of the waves of that ringing to hit. Do you hear it? Do you hear what's calling you? Do you feel when the winds are pushing you in a certain direction? Do you feel whenever the world is manifesting the same message in front of you over and over and over and over again? Do you see the messages? Are you hearing everything? For many Virgo risings, there's travel going on during eclipse season. We're going in a certain direction. We're learning in the moment. We're exploring. We're having adventures. And some of us, we are having adventures with a very specific person. We're starting to see the turnaround in another person. We're starting to see the turnaround in our own situation. Some of us, we are dealing with the effects of what was uncovered over the course of the summer. And there can be a legal element involved for Virgo risings and judgments with a 9th house eclipse. Not all of it's sunshine and rainbows. Not all of it's about travel. Some of it, you're dealing with the judgments. You're dealing with verdicts. You're dealing with juries. You're dealing with something. If you haven't dealt with the judgment quite yet in the sense of legality, you're going to. Saturn is going to be in Pisces all the way until the end of 2025. It takes a little dip into Aries, but it'll come back. There will be a legal element to Saturn in your 7th house. An eclipse in the 9th house, like I said from the beginning, you're getting called towards something. There are lessons that are unfolding all around you. And for many of you, you are learning in the moment. And there is a need to learn. There is a need to go back to school. There is a need for education. There is a need for this moment. There's a need to restore something. And for many of you, what needs to be restored is your mental health. If it's not your mental health, it is the mental health of a loved one. And for a lot of Virgo risings, it is your kids. And little by little, that has been coming to light. Why? Because Pluto is in that 5th house. Some of you are making very hard decisions on whether you're going to do something for a partner or for kids. Some of you are dealing with the hard decisions tied to the courthouse and your kids. Others are embarking on new ideas, a new way of thinking, a new way of communicating, new prospects. And the travel has to do with the fact that you're going to be moving soon. You're not entirely sure where that's going to be quite yet. That's okay. And that would be quite normal. Right now, a lot of the travel is trying to find where you're going to set your roots next. Many of you, wherever you start to set up your roots later on, is not going to be where you live now. It's going to be elsewhere, further away. Not across town, but across the state, across the county, 3-4 counties away, across the country. We're going towards something different. Right now is about planning and action. And if you are traveling right now, the Mars-Mercury conjunction in your third, no distracted traveling this weekend. You get in the car, you set your playlist, you get your GPS set, you fiddle with everything you're going to fiddle with before you put that freaking car in drive. No distracted driving, Virgo risings. You could also have frustrating things tied to travel this weekend. Just to be clear, either with the vehicle or however your means of travel, there can be disruptions, there can be frustrations in this area. It might hinder part of where you're going, and that can create some issues with you and a partner. They can be easily overcome, but it can still create some issues. Depends on the level of security that they feel in the relationship or insecurity. Just be aware. You guys have a lot going on, and you have been for quite some time. And it really kind of comes down to what we're trying to finally wrap up and level up based off of the exposures of the summer. Venus now being in your first house is putting a lot of attention on you. A lot of people are wanting to know what your decision is. A lot of people are wanting you to put something in motion, put something in place, and many of you have been. Others are waiting for you to make a decision, and once that decision is made, it is going to lead to other things. Where are you going next? Who are you spending that time with? Where are we trying to restore some things? What are we embarking on? There's a lot of travel and exploration and adventures going on for Virgo risings. Okay. For Libras and Libra risings, I know you're still dealing with a lot of insecurity. The longer the South Node goes through your first house, the more things that are below the surface are going to boil to the forefront. Every level of insecurity that you might have is going to come to the top. I need you to understand, though, this is not going to remain this way. Now, whenever Mars and Mercury and the Sun were all in your first house, a lot of attention was going on you, and a lot of you were getting very, very frustrated and very, very annoyed. Now, those frustrations and nuisances and annoyances are starting to impact a whole other area. And you're either finding yourself where you're having to spend more money than you wanted to spend, or that money is being negatively impacted, and we are waiting to see for something to finally level out or pay out in some way. This is an eclipse in your 8th house. The 8th house is a financial house. It's tied to other people's money. There can be a final payout, a final settlement, a final deal, a final contract, something that finalizes that's going to help with overcoming certain levels of your insecurity, but it's not going to be the cure-all and the be-all. We need to get something else in order to overcome this fear around the finances. And there is new opportunities coming, but I feel like with a lot of Libra risings, that newer opportunity is going to be more in November, whenever Venus is in your first house, and then after that new moon in Scorpio, which would also include Mars's rebirth. I like with where we're going next. I like November for Libra risings a lot more than I like October. A lot of you are in a place where you're needing to overcome certain fears, financial fears in a lot of ways, but also we are trying to let go of the past, heal old wounds. Your chart ruler is Venus. Venus is in your 12th. Going back to places of the past, learning about more and more things that have been going on behind your back, learning about somebody else's secret can also be in this mix, and having to deal with the repercussions tied to secrets. It doesn't have to be your secret and be tied to somebody else's. That can happen following the eclipse. I don't necessarily know that it happens during the eclipse, but in the weeks following, I can see that happening. And you can have something that is very, very blindsiding. But for the most part, I feel like with Libra risings, very much like the Aries risings, this is about financial. Getting your finances in order, overcoming something tied to a financial situation. And for many of you, your financial situation is tied to another, because that Venus retrograde was in the 11th house. So a partnership, ending of a friendship, doing something with a team of people, with a group of people, within a certain place of business where where there's a lot of people involved. So your colleagues and things like that, your clients, we're trying to wrap up some things tied to things that occurred over the summer. So that way you can embark on the next thing. So you can work towards that overcoming of fear. We're in a closeout mode, Libra risings. Understand that as you go through the next month, you're overcoming fear, you're discovering some of the things that have been going on behind your back, and then after you're done with whoever the done is going to be tied to, some people you will be done during the eclipse. Other people it's going to happen the week or two following. But after the done is set in, a whole different level of attention and a whole different level of energy will start to come through you in the way you do business, in the way that you communicate with people. A whole different element of personal strength will be coming through you. Okay. For Scorpios and Scorpio risings, this is an eclipse in our 7th house of relationships and partnerships in legal matters. Mars will be hitting an opposition to Jupiter. I said parts of this at the beginning. I'm going to say it again whenever it comes to the Scorpio risings. What happened? What were you dealing with? Who were you talking to? October and November of 2021. What were the themes? Especially during that eclipse. Now, I said the October thing because of the Mars rebirth, and we're about to have another Mars rebirth. This is why I keep saying the October and November timeframe. What was going on then? Because more than likely, where you had a scare was based off relationships. Where things started to crumble afterwards was in the relationship area. And now we have an opportunity for promise. We have an opportunity for hope. We can finally have a certain type of communication and a breakthrough tied to another person. Some of you are pissed, and you're going to finally be able to tell somebody exactly what you're mad about, exactly how you feel, exactly what got done to you. You're going to have a different type of voice. I want to be super clear about this with Scorpio risings. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad or ugly. It does not matter in this regard. That Mars-Mercury conjunction, the first one is in our first house, babies. It's in our first house. That means our words are going to be very, very powerful. More than any other sign, the Mars-Mercury conjunction in Scorpio, our words are going to cut. Our words will melt steel. You can use that in a positive way and heal a connection with another person, or use that in a negative way and finally put a situation to bed that needed to be put to bed. Your words are so powerful during this eclipse, and I need you to understand that. the voice that you have, the things that you are saying, you will cut people with your words because it is that powerful right now. However, if you are in the pivotal energy and you're leaned into this in a stronger, smarter way, the things that will unfold over the rest of this year will be an entirely different pivotal chapter for you in regards to who you are as a person, where you call home, the communication that you have with your family. All of this will change dramatically. We're in a very key point in time where what we say and how we say it will make or break every level of a situation. If you want something to go to a point of promise and level up in a relationship, use your words wisely and cautiously. Do not push. Mars in our first house, we're very ambitious. We can push. Don't push. Say what you need to say. Say what you mean what you say. Don't over dramatize how you feel. Get straight to the point and then shut the fuck up. Don't say another word. Don't talk anymore. Don't do a damn thing. Shut your damn mouth. You say what you need to say, walk away. And you let them think and you let them mull it over and you let them make decisions. Do not make decisions for another person unless you're cutting them out. Don't try to push somebody into being ready for something that they're not ready for. You say how you feel and you walk away. Get your heart and soul to a point of peace and then walk away and go do other shit because we got plenty of shit to do. Say your piece, walk away. Trust me on this. By not pushing your will, you grow. By not pushing your agenda, more things will fall into place for you. By not pushing your damn ego, this will be a much easier energy to work with. Trust me. Say what you need to say and then walk away. Whatever falls into place afterwards will be meant for you. If that person can't handle how you feel and where you're at and what's going on, doesn't matter if it's a friend, doesn't matter if it's a client, doesn't matter if it's a relationship, it doesn't matter who it is. If they can't handle it, that's on them. You do you. But don't push for somebody to be ready for something when they're not. Say what you need to say and then walk away. Focus on yourself right now. Because if you stay focused on yourself and the big picture in regards to what's unfolding around you, will make everything go a lot smoother later on. You like calculated control, Scorpio risings. I am one too. I know this. I am telling you exactly what you need to do for calculated control. Say what you need to say it as calmly as possible, and then walk the fuck away. Let everything else for the rest of the next 4 to 6 weeks unfold naturally. It will. Trust me, it will. Okay. For Sagittarius and Sagittarius risings, this is a full moon eclipse in your 6th house of health. So I'm going to say something very similar to you that I said to Gemini risings. Be very, very aware of your organ health, but I'm also going to add in reproductive health. No hookups. No hookups. Just to be super clear. Just no hookups. Just trust me on this one. I don't feel like a bunch of y'all are going to go and try to hook up with somebody, but I'm telling you right now, no hookups. I mean that. If there's any sign that I feel like kind of behind the bar right now, it is Sagittarius risings. I don't feel like everything is unfolding the way for you guys as much as it is the other signs. I feel like so many of you got delayed based off of the Mars retrograde that happened last fall, that it has kept certain things from falling into place now. Now, the one thing that I will say is that we are rounding out that energy of the last 2 years. There is something that is starting to unfold. Many of you are starting to see things fall away from you, and you're starting to feel like you are on shaky ground. And I need you to understand that's the energy, and you're going to feel this way throughout waves of the rest of this year. You will have moments where you question whether you've made right decisions. You have. You made the right decisions with the wrong players in place. Other people weren't on the same page as you. They didn't want the same things as you. Ultimately, their values changed. I'm not saying yours did. I'm saying what became important to them is now more of the focus. It's now more at light. We need to let something go. You're going to see, and you already have been seeing, things fall away, people fall away, places putting you into uncharted territory. Your chart ruler is Jupiter, and Jupiter's in your 6th house. This is not a lucky place. This is not a helpful place. This is a place where you need to know where you need to be of service to others, how you can help others in their coping. You will not understand the full benefit of where you're at in routine, where you're at in your health, where you're at in your karmic process, where you're at with your family's health, your genetic health, whatever is coming to the surface. You're not going to fully understand the full aspects of every bit of it until next year. You guys are a little bit behind the curve energetically compared to other signs. That's not a bad thing, but you've had the chance to see other people in their upheaval. You've had the chance to learn lessons from them. What you are starting to see fall away right now was the fact that they went through so many lessons, and you are feeling like, well, if everyone else is changing, why haven't I made this change yet? Because you guys already had to make changes. So in some ways you're behind the curve, but in other ways you're ahead of the curve. You were forced to make changes in ways that other people weren't last fall. What's happened over the course of this year following that has been everybody else going through a same energetic pattern that you guys have already been in. You thought you were getting everything lined out and smoothed out over the course of this fall, and now everything was going to start to fall into place. It's not. You're going to be blindsided. You're going to question whether you've been making the right decisions. You're going to be just questioning your purpose. You're going to question whether things are going in the right direction. They are. The biggest thing that you can do for yourself right now is build a healthy routine and stick to it. One that is healthy for your physical health, one that is healthy for your mental health. Stick to it and keep any type of lavish concepts or spending or anything along these lines. Stay as minimalist as possible until we get to the new year. Just trust me on that. Okay. Moving us along for Capricorns and Capricorn risings. This is a full moon eclipse in your 5th house of love, luck, romance, joy, happiness. If there's any sign that needs some freaking luck, needs to have their faith restored whenever it comes to love, when it needs for us to have healing tied to happiness, tied to children, it's you guys. I have been telling Capricorn rising since the beginning of this year that there is a level of emotional depth and emotional healing that you needed to tap into. Saturn, your chart ruler, is now back to 0 degrees of Pisces and is stationing to go direct the first week of November, specifically November 4th. Pluto is now direct in your first house. You are in a month of turning something around. This turning around situation is going to result in a new identity in you, a new form of personal power, a new form of strength. You are making a commitment to a friend, in front of your friends, in front of an audience, about love, about luck, about joy, about happiness, about children. Why? Because the Mars-Mercury conjunction is in your 11th house of friends, opposite Jupiter in the 5th house of love, luck, romance, joyness, happiness, and children. There is something that you are personally making an effort to turn around. Overcoming past fears, past frustrations, past issues tied to your self-worth, and the new person is going to start to come through over the course of the rest of this year. Your ability to take back your own personal power is profound, and you are doing it, many of you, through proclamations of love. Some of you, you're not actually watching, you're not making the proclamations. What you're seeing is the proclamations in your children. You're seeing their growth. And you're seeing them grow up and get married. You're seeing their changes. And we have pride. Some of you, you're making proclamations in love, and where the frustrations are coming through is in the children and the relationship. Your children might not necessarily be happy about you getting remarried. If you're a woman, I'm just going from a woman's perspective, say you're dating a dude, this proclamation of love and commitment and relationship might not sit well with their children or people from their life. It does not matter. It does not matter. Anyone that does not take place in your household, that is not actually, a part of your daily life, their opinion should not matter. Good, bad, or ugly, their opinion shouldn't matter. Do what's best for you and what makes you happy. If there's any sign that has the ability to proclaim love in this particular eclipse, it's Capricorn risings. Finding love, finding a love interest, going out with friends and meeting a potential romantic partner. That's a big possibility for Capricorn risings. Going on a first date based off of a connection that your friends made. That's a big one for this energy. But there's a shift in regards to love and friendship in this energy. Okay. For Aquarius and Aquarius risings, this is an eclipse in your 4th house of home life, roots, ancestry. Many of you have been in the process of changing something in your home life, having upheaval and disruptions in your family. And in some ways, this full moon eclipse in a conjunction to Jupiter can be a final rumble with potential aspects afterwards. For some of you, this is going to be a final rumble where stability immediately follows. For some of you, this is going to be a final hit of letting go of the past and reclaiming your personal power. Whether that's on a financial level or just on a mental level, there's a change. The Venus retrograde in your 7th house showed the underbelly of the ego, whether that was in a business partnership or in a relationship partnership. We saw the underbelly of somebody else. We also had a whole different way that people saw us and showed us attention. Some Aquarius risings, you guys have fantastic Venus retrograde. Others, not so much. Whether you had a good energy or a bad energy, you're now seeing the aftermath. You're now seeing the after effect. And for many of you, you're closing something out with the idea that it'll lead to additional stability or new layers of stability, new capabilities of stability, new capabilities of hope, new capabilities of happiness and prosperity and abundance. Some Aquarius risings are going to suddenly be very, very surprised with a little bundle of joy. That Venus retrograde made everybody a little frisky. That's meaning now, oh, wait, you're pregnant? What? There can be surprises. Surprises tied to home life, roots, ancestry, mothers, and matrons. Family is growing. Jupiter expands everything it touches. Jupiter's in your 4th house of home life, and family. There will be growth in family, stability in family, stability in the home life. And a lot of the stability is going to put new financial pressures on you later on, but also new abilities to understand your own role within your family. And a lot of Aquarius risings are going to be rising to an occasion of becoming the new patriarchs and matriarchs within the family. To do that, though, we have to overcome things tied to the past. And for some of you, those things tied to the past are going to be family secrets. Allow them to come through. Say whatever needs to be said. Understand not everybody's going to like whatever you have to say. But then allow for healing to follow. Allow for the stability to follow. It's a good time to turn some things around. Okay. For Pisces and Pisces risings, obviously you're the last one I wrote notes for, but as soon as I started your notes, the first thing I wrote down was a song. So for Pisces risings, you're getting a song as a part of your message. That song is Starting Over by Chris Stapleton. Now that's kind of a romantic song, and some people are starting over in relationships with Venus going through your 7th house. However, not all of you are in that standpoint. Some people, you are starting over on your own. The reason I see the starting over with Pisces risings has to do with the fact that Jupiter is one of your chart rulers, and Saturn is in your 1st. Saturn is stationing. It is time to turn something around. Saturn has been applying a certain amount of pressure to you as an individual, to your identity, to your life, to you. Pressure to the body, pressure to the mind, pressure to everything going on around you. The thing about Saturn's energy in your 1st house, and I'm a natal Saturn in the 1st, so I have Pluto conjunct the Ascendant and Saturn both in my 1st house. I'm a very intense person. You have Saturn in the 1st right now with Neptune transiting the 1st. You have the ability to be both an intense, serious person, but also one that can ignite faith and hope and spirituality. You're in the process right now of either starting over yourselves or helping somebody else start over in some way. Saturn coming back to the 0-degree mark and stationing at 0 degrees, in a lot of ways, you guys are starting over. And it is the 0-degree mark that makes me get into the starting over standpoint. Things that started to happen in March took us in one direction. But then things kind of fell away. We thought we were going to get over a relationship issue, and we got over it, but not in the way that we thought. We thought we were going to have to deal with a certain kind of legal issue, and we didn't have to deal with them the same way. We had certain things in regards to health tied to our friends. Some of us even had to do with addictions. And now we're at a point of starting over. Either we are the ones starting over, so we are overcoming the addiction. We are overcoming past issues. We are the ones starting over, or we are helping someone else. We are helping somebody else gain footing. We are helping somebody else get through the motions. We are helping somebody else communicate their wounds. We are helping somebody else in the moment. There is a starting over element with Pisces risings. And the thing is, this is a third house eclipse. For some people, the starting over is going to be based off communication. It's going to be based off of, like, for business things, like a marketing idea or something like that. We're going to start working through marketing. For some people, the most mundane thing that will happen during this eclipse is going to be just some travel, a road trip of some sort. But in a lot of ways, that travel can alleviate some of the pressure that has been being held on the body. Sometimes just going for a drive clears our head. For Pisces risings, I suggest more than just going for a drive. Go for a drive, but go to a body of water. So go to a nearby lake if you can. If you live near rivers or creeks, I combine those two just then. Go near water, like a park that has a water element, and walk around, enjoy it. Do these types of things, because water is a big reset for Pisces risings. But so is the mobility, and so is the motion. The ruler of this eclipse is Venus, and Venus is in your 7th house. For a lot of Pisces risings, the starting over is with another person. It is tied to another person. So either you and them are starting over in a relationship, or you are helping somebody else go through the motions of starting something over. But there is a guidance involved. If you are the one actually starting over, the guidance is coming from someone else. If you are not in the place of starting over, then you're probably the one guiding the other. You're learning and helping and teaching and exploring and uncovering new elements tied to your faith. Helpful elements that'll be tied to your faith. Whatever comes through in your meditation this weekend, whatever call that you get unexpectedly can lead to immediate needs for travel. Be aware of that. If you have somebody in your life that you've already been helping for quite some time, be aware of that. The thing about Mercury is Mercury rules that 7th house, and that's where Venus is. But Mercury also rules your 4th house of home life, and family. Mercury is in the 9th. Opposite Jupiter, opposite one of your chart rulers. Some of us can be making plans to travel in the most mundane way, but some of us can have a sudden disruption that requires us to travel. That can also be a very mundane situation. There's a pivotal energy to this weekend with Pisces risings. I don't feel this as chaotic. I really don't. But be aware of whatever comes through this weekend will not be new. We're building to it. Will not be a whole new situation. We are building towards it. So whoever you have already been doing things with, helping with, dealing with in your personal life, that's where you should anticipate the disruption. That's where you will see the biggest change and the biggest adjustment. That's who you need to be there for. Or vice versa, that's going to be the person that's going to be there for you. We're all in different places. We're all in different stages in the elements. So starting over. We're starting over. Okay. I do love this eclipse, and I have a lot of hope for this eclipse, but the thing is like, I don't feel it during the eclipse. I feel it afterwards. I really do. I feel it once we get into November. I feel like the immediate energy around this eclipse, because it is so powerful, is going to result in immediate disruptions. That disruption is going to lead to arguments. It's going to lead to angst. It's going to lead to tension. And that is just the immediate elements of the energy playing out in some way. There will be some disruption. Not everyone will have to deal with disruption in the negative sense. It'll be the most pivotal conversations that you've ever had. You will learn from the guru that you've always needed. You will experience somebody and their opinion and their way of thinking and their way of doing things. And it will change your mindset forever. And that's a positive way to deal with this weekend. For others, we are finally telling somebody exactly how we feel. Big, bold, boisterous ways of thinking and of voicing. For some people, we won't be bold at first at all. We will just lay out a plan. And the boldness will come later. There's key communications to this weekend that will directly lead to additional things at the end of December and into January. If we make impulsive decisions in this moment, they will come back to bite us. They will come back around. Understand there are elements of impulsiveness that are good and elements of impulsiveness that can be bad. But there will be some very necessary, pivotal conversations and communication from this weekend that will have a very large impact. For some people, it's going to be massive in the sense of like how big it leads to things later on, like how big the things that we end up dealing with later on. It'll be massive in that regard. May not be massive in the moment. Think of it this way. If you get a job offer, just as an example, that job offer at first is just a conversation between you and the employer. The trickle effect is what's massive. You might talk to your significant other or one or two other people and get their input, but they're not the ones accepting the job, baby. You are. The implication and the trickle effect will have something massive, because if you're going into a role that is very, very large, or in a large company where you're going to work with thousands of hundreds to thousands of people, in some ways that's going to be in the sense of like who the other customers to that company is, the customers themselves of whatever is being sold or marketed. The ripple effect will be massive. For some people, what we are proclaiming this weekend is going to be in front of masses. Jupiter is a planet of mass. The plural of one mass is masses. Think of what that word can be implicative of. It implicates a lot. It implicates a lot of people, a lot of things, big things, hopeful things, prosperous things. Mars in that opposition to Jupiter is going to be a very different energy compared to what we dealt with in November of 2021. Because before, Mars was in the opposition to Uranus. Now, it's not that. There's bold, hopeful implications, long-term, big picture implications that are in this eclipse, and that will not all unfold during this eclipse. And if everybody is thinking that it's going to just be during this eclipse, we are going to set ourselves up for failure. So you're going to hear me say this for a while. It's not just about this eclipse. It's about what's going to come later. And that 5-degree mark, I'm telling you, that Mercury retrograde earlier this year was a shit show beyond all shit shows. Part of it was because of an eclipse. This is an eclipse activating the 5-degree mark of Taurus again. Jupiter will be at 5 degrees of Taurus for a month. From the middle of December to the middle of January, I am telling you, the things that will play out following this eclipse here, not just in this eclipse, they will play out the end of this year, going into the first of next year. They will not all play out right now. And the things that will play out at the first of next year will be unimaginable for us right now, because we haven't had enough of the real life or the real world effect to unfold. So more than likely what I'm going to end up doing is whenever we get to like December timeframe, I'm going to be referencing this video again, saying there were seeds planted. There was an activation during the eclipse. We saw the first bloom on a plant, but it was the first bloom, not the whole plant, not the whole garden, not the whole forest. We saw the first bloom. This eclipse, it's the first bloom. We have an entire garden of energy that needs to unfold, unravel, wake up, bloom. It's going to take a few months, but I see it. I see it very loud and clear. There will be parts of this eclipse that will have an immediate effect, but the immediate effect will be almost mundane. The long-term effect will be huge. There are things that we wanted in May of this year that we didn't get. Why? Because whenever Jupiter was in those first degrees of Taurus, it was in a conjunction to the North Node. That includes whenever Jupiter went into shadow during that Sagittarius full moon. That includes that timeline. The North Node is a greedy, greedy baby. I want to eat everything in sight. We didn't start to finally feel stable in a lot of ways until the end of the summer, because we needed the North Node to get further away from Jupiter. Now Jupiter is going to backtrack over to areas that he tried to help before, but couldn't help. This eclipse is another round of activation that Jupiter will be helping very, very strongly and very, very deeply come the end of this year. So I'm telling you now, if you're thinking you're going to have a super casual, soft, mundane Christmas, no, the hell you ain't. No, you're not. That's not going to happen that way. But it doesn't mean it's going to be bad. We are going to be in a Mercury retrograde, though. I feel like a lot of people are going to get snowed in. I've been feeling that one for a while. I think a lot of people are going to get snowed in. It's not make good travel, though. Oh, but we got plenty of time between now and then. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I hope this is helpful. Hit me up with questions or concerns. You can message me through WhatsApp. You can message me through Instagram, and you can message me through Facebook. WhatsApp, I'm still trying to get better at paying attention to, because for the first few years of having it, every time somebody used it was either from a foreign country and they were my client, or they were spammers. So I'm getting better with that one. Facebook and Instagram, it doesn't matter. It goes to the same place, so I can still read them either way. Whichever works for you, hit me up with questions, hit me up with concerns, and I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.